What's up, everyone? Let's create a React app from scratch. First things first, let's open a terminal. Let's do this right on our desktop. And let's initiate an npm project. First of all, we're going to need React. This is the package for the core library, and it provides us with the functionality to define and manage the UI components in our application. Next, we're going to need React DOM. This package is specifically used for web applications to render the UI components within the browser's DOM. And this package will work in tandem with React to bring our components to life in our web environment. Now, you don't have to go line by line like this. I could have done npm install React and React DOM. But I'm going to do them one by one just so I can explain what each package does. Now, these next packages are going to be development dependencies. So we're going to do npm install -d. And first, we're going to need the Babel core. And Babel is a JavaScript compiler, and it lets you use next generation JavaScript now. And we're going to want to transform our modern JavaScript and JSX into backwards compatible versions for older browsers. And Babel will help us do that. Next, let's install the Babel loader. This is the bridge between Webpack and Babel. It's going to utilize the Babel core to transpile JavaScript files. And this loader is going to help integrate that within Webpack's module building. We're also going to need the Babel React preset. This preset has all of the necessary plugins for transpiling React's JSX into standard JavaScript. So it works with the Babel core and allows us to write JSX syntax, and then it's converted into a browser understandable format. Okay, now let's install Webpack. Now, Webpack is a module bundler, and it's going to allow us to take our JavaScript files and other assets and bundle them into a single or just a few files. It also allows us to use loaders and plugins so we can process those files. Next, we're going to need the Webpack CLI. This is the command line interface for Webpack. It's going to allow us to access and run Webpack commands. It'll just make it easier for us to configure and control our bundling process. We're also going to need the HTML Webpack plugin. This is going to simplify the creation of HTML files to serve in our Webpack bundles. So Webpack is going to bundle our React application, and this plugin is going to embed it within an HTML file, which we're going to use to serve our React application, which we're going to need to view our application on a web browser. And finally, we're going to need the Webpack dev server. This is our development server, and it has things like live reloading. Okay, now since we have all of our packages installed, let's pop this open with Visual Studio Code. Okay, we're only going to need a couple configuration files. We're going to need one for Babel. And we're going to need one for Webpack. Let's write our Webpack configuration first. So we're going to need that HTML Webpack plugin. And I'm using Copilot, so I can just press tab. So we're just importing that package. Let's create a new instance. And we're going to create a source folder, and inside that source folder is going to be an index page. We can actually do that right now too. We can do source, and then inside here, we'll just do index.html. With Emmet, you can just do an exclamation point and press tab, and it'll generate you a scaffolding for an HTML page. I'm assuming you don't need a walkthrough of how to create an HTML page. Let's throw a div in the body, and this will be the root of our app. Now you can call this whatever you want. You could call it app, you could call it root, you know, whatever you want. Usually it's root or app though. I'm just gonna do app. Save this, close it. Okay, and this is what we're gonna wanna output. Perfect. And we need to export a module. Mode is gonna be to development. And let's write our module. We're gonna need some rules. So let's see what it got here. We don't need to do this, but we do need to test for JavaScript. And we don't want any of the JavaScript within the node modules. So we can just do exclude node modules. And we're gonna wanna use, the Babel loader. Perfect. And then one more rule. We're gonna wanna test for CSS, and then we're gonna run it through the style loader and the CSS loader. This should end our module, and then we need another curly boy down here, and that'll do it for our Webpack config. Save that, close it, and we're gonna wanna instruct Babel to use the React preset. And that's that. Okay, now the last thing that we need to do is set the entry point for our application. We'll do that right inside of our source directory. Index.js, import React. We're gonna wanna get that element that we're gonna inject our application into. So but it's defaulting to root. I'd probably assume most people probably use the word root. Let's just use root for convention. So we're gonna get that element. Now we're gonna wanna create root. And we're gonna need to import that. Let's create our app component. Boom. And then let's render it into the root. And there we go. The only other thing that we're going to need to do is create the start script right here. So we'll go here. We'll do start. We're going to need to do all of this, except for we don't need to do this. We can just do config, and we're going to use our Webpack config. Cool. Fingers crossed. Looks like it's working. Localhost at 880. Ooh, cannot get. Oh, I see. We totally forgot to add this HTML plugin to our module. This is actually a regular expression here. Oh, I have to move this down. Okay, sorry, I think that should work. There we go. refresh, hello world. Sometimes you run into some problems and you just need to be able to work through them. You know, if you're in a job interview, just take your time, go back, make sure things are in the right spot, and that you're using all your variables. When I wasn't using this variable, see how it's kind of like the opacity is different here, and saying, hey, you declared this value, but you never read it. So I was like, oh crap, I forgot to add it here. Anyway, pretty easy, pretty straightforward. From here, you can just create more components. You know, create a new directory, call it components. Create one called pages. However you want to create your React application. It's totally up to you. That's the great thing about React. So if you like this video, make sure that you like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.